Hey, Claudine. Claudine's back. Guess who's
Yes, it's
Bizak?
been a while.
Guess who's Bizak? Claudine.
Hi,
And good to see
Marvel.
you, Jasmine. Good to see you, Victor.
Good afternoon.
What
Hey
up? What
Hi,
up?
everyone.
everyone.
Hi everyone.
What up? Say, Ron, what's up?
Hey Ron, how are you? Hey Angela, how are
Hi,
you?
life
Hey,
is
Simon.
good.
Doing
Hey.
well?
So, I got a really good thing I want to cover today because I think after doing the well, let me start here. Everybody, welcome to this. So we have to do this because the video editor don't know where to start the beginning of the meeting. So everybody, welcome to the Speaker Up Daily call. It is our normal 12 o'clock meeting that we do on a daily basis. It is called Speaker Co-working. And if you are here, you ever need to find out how to get back, you can always go to speakercoworking.com and you can find the direct link to this meeting that happens every day at 12 noon p.m. Eastern. And it's in this Zoom room right here. It's the place where speakers, thought leaders, and everyone else, they come to learn or get better at getting on more stages or how to make more money as a speaker, or they can ask our team whatever they need um, to know about getting booked as a speaker. SpeakerHUB is the largest directory of speakers and the largest database of speakers in the world. So if you were to Google us, we have the largest data set, the largest directory, and the largest traffic source, largest amount of traffic that visit our site on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis regarding getting booked for speaking gigs. So we are the authorities in that space. So this is a normal call where we basically just answer questions, do support whatever someone may have, but we also do a little bit of teaching. So I have a really cool topic today, which is going to be on frameworks. Yesterday, if you missed that call, we went over how to do your calls to actions while you're on all three different modalities of speaking, whether that's an audio opportunity, a video opportunity, or a live stage. You should know how to make your calls to action. So we didn't go like all the way into it, but we went good enough so that someone who just watches that knows how to give a call to action. Now, could everyone on that call refine what they're doing and perfect it? Yes. But what is it? Done is better than perfect and undone, right? So I would rather you get better at making calls to actions than to try to perfect one before you make one. So we know that if you're appearing on podcasts, you need a call to action. If you're appearing doing small groups, you need a calls to action in order to get clients out of the audience. And if you're doing large stages, you need to allow the audience to follow you and to get more information about it. So any questions before we get into how to build a framework, which I think is probably the most important topic that you can have as a speaker? Any questions? Any ideas? Anything someone has? Okay, cool.
I had a
So,
question
Claudine,
about
good. Oh, go ahead.
yesterday. You were talking about how to get the find my question. How to get the your podcast seen, I think. I think that was it. When you're on a podcast, I wrote it down. Now I'm having issues finding it. Probably should have waited. But yeah, it was how to get your podcast.
I know, Kevin, I know what you're talking about. I'll chime in. Ron, is how to get
Okay.
your podcast more views. So you went to the two
Right.
sites and you were talking about the number of views that we're seeing. Will you go over that again about how to get more views for your specific podcast, even if the show doesn't get a lot of traffic?
Yep.
Is that what you're asking,
Right.
So,
Kevin?
yep. So,
Yes.
so there are a couple things you can do. Let's start with why do we want more traffic? So I'll kind of give you the story of SpeakerHUB. So we refuse to run ads at SpeakerHUB just yet. we haven't done any outside promotion to anybody that's not on our list. And the reason being is because we haven't, in my opinion. Now, to most people, oh, well, you sign up 1,000 people a month, so it must be doing okay. In my standard, that's just what we're doing now. I need to improve our onboarding, right? So a lot of times people want a lot of traffic, but it can end up being a missed opportunity if your processes aren't perfect. So if someone who hasn't mastered their framework, mastered their calls to action, mastered their product, have all their funnels set up, if we put you on Joe Rogan tomorrow, which would give you 20 million views, it's a blown opportunity, right? Because you haven't optimized everything to get better. So one of the biggest requests we get is, I want to get on bigger podcasts. I want to get more views. I want to get more. And what they're saying is, I need more views to make up for my lack of skill. Let me say it again, because nobody else is going to tell y'all this. I need more views to make up for my lack of skill. So I went on a small podcast with 500 views. Nobody downloaded anything. Nobody bought anything from me. I didn't build my list. So I need to go on one with 10,000 views. No, if I put you in a room with 500 people and nobody asks you or cares about your speech, that ain't a problem with the 500 people in the audience, player. That's a problem with you and your presentation. I'm not talking about Kevin. Let me make sure so everyone knows this. Don't send me no emails. I'm not picking on Kevin. I'm talking in general about the value of improving our skills with small audiences so that we can dominate the larger audiences. Elephant hunters eat rabbits. Let me say it again. Elephant hunters eat rabbits. And that's a framework that I came up with maybe 20 years ago, because I grew up as a shooter as a kid. So I was probably 5 or 6 years old when I got my first firearm, right? And my uncles would teach me how to shoot. And I would be like, dude, I want to, he's like, dude, if you can hit this little bitty can from way back here with this rifle, then we'll get you a handgun. But you're going to learn how to shoot this rifle, learn balance, learn patience, learn discipline of shooting this little bitty thing from way back there with the rifle. Because I know if you can do that, you'll hit anything up close with a handgun. And I was like, oh, whatever, I didn't want to do it. But I had to understand what he was trying to teach me, that if I could master shooting these little rabbits, my stepdad was a rabbit hunter and do all this stuff, right? He probably still catches 100 fish a week. He goes fishing like 3 days a week. But if I could master this shooting of this small rabbit that was hopping around, and in East St. Louis, there's a lot of rabbits, okay? Very rarely do you see an elephant. You see an elephant whenever the circus comes to town. But if I could hit this little fast thing that was moving, when that big, slow elephant came, he didn't stand a chance, right? So if you can convert on these small podcasts, like I showed you, the one with Pam that had 20 views, but I had 7 leads, or the one that had 160 views, but I sold 75 new signups. Imagine if I went on what happens when I go on the larger ones. So when I tell people we built 3,000 customers in our business from me just going to a podcast, it's because I started off on those little ones and I had to get better. So the first part, before you want to get more views, to answer your question, Kevin, is we got to be sure that we're mastering the small ones, right?
Makes sense.
So that's the first part. So I want to make sure everyone understands that. Go on the smaller ones and improve their skills. Get on more podcasts, right? Once you start getting on more podcasts and you're getting better, if you're good on a small one, you can do a bunch of things that are free and you can do a few things that are paid. When it comes to the free things, you can post on your social media, right? You can post on your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, post in other groups. You can share, most groups will let you share a podcast appearance in the group or some interview that you were a part of, because you're really not direct pitching, but you can share that information across your social networks. That's the first thing you can do for free. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
The second thing that's really easy to do, if you just want to get more people to hear about you, is the simple way to run an ad to something on Instagram or Facebook. You can just click boost. It's not going to drive a bunch of conversions, but it will drive views, right? Because you're wanting more views. You're not trying. You didn't say you wanted more conversions. You said you wanted more views of your content. So you can easily boost a post and get more views to it, right? But I'm going to give you the most effective way I've seen to do this. The most effective way to do this is to run a YouTube ad to the podcast that you were a guest on. Run a YouTube ad to the podcast that you have been a guest on. Why is that important? The reason why that is effective and important is this. On Facebook, if anybody blinks and looks at your ad, they charge you. On YouTube, a person has to watch it for 30 seconds before they charge you. So if someone watches 25 seconds of your 2-minute ad and they click skip, you know, I got that skip thing that come up after 5 seconds. If they click that skip, YouTube don't charge you until it gets to 30 seconds. So that means you got 30 seconds to hook them and to get them to stay watching it. So on my podcast, the ones that I've gone on, I usually try to get into what I'm talking about right at the beginning so that the person knows what they're listening about. And YouTube is good at putting similar ads on top of similar content. So I can show you how my YouTube ads, you can go back and watch some of the old recordings because we covered this before. My average watch time for a YouTube ad is about 21 minutes. Did you hear what I said? 21 minutes they watch an ad because I put the whole 60-minute podcast up. But if they don't click skip, they still think they watch it Earn Your Leisure. And in reality, they watch it run. That just happens to be running on top of Earn Your Leisure. If they don't click that skip, they don't even get to the Earn Your Leisure video. Does this make sense? So you can run YouTube ads to cover, and it costs about a penny a view. You get 1,000 views on YouTube for about $10, right? So that's how it works. Let me show you again. We're gonna make sure this dude gonna sell 1,000 books because I'm gonna promote this show your work thing forever, right? Let me go into my YouTube ads thing. And I haven't been on podcast in a while, so you're gonna see my ad account is probably gonna be, they're gonna ask me to connect my checking account to it or something, right? So, no, I just wanna go to Google Ads, 1 second. Google Ads. And I will show you here, my friends. Let me change my screen to English so everyone on here can understand it besides the 3 of us that speak some type of Spanish. All right, so here's a great example. This is an ad that I ran. Show you one. And if you want to see the ad, let's look at it. Here's the ad here. You see it's a YouTube ad. You see it says skip ad. You see that? It's called the YouTube True View. YouTube True View. And what that means is if the person doesn't watch it for 30 seconds, you don't pay. Right? What is a true view and why is it important? And they explain it on this thing that it's basically a 30-second. If you don't watch for 30 seconds, you don't pay for it. Here it is right here. For true view ads, you only pay if the user interacts with the video, meaning they clicked over to your site or they watch at least 30 seconds or more. If they click skip, you don't pay for that view. Let me show you what I mean. How many people saw my ad? 4,227. How many true views did I have? 2,700. You see how even though 4,000 people saw it, I only had to pay YouTube for 2,000 of those views. Is this making sense, Victor? But how much did I pay? For 2,000 views, I paid about $40. So it cost me about 1.5 cents to get somebody to watch my YouTube video. Is this making sense? Now that video wasn't on my channel. It is on her channel, Seen, Sought, Sold. That's why I call it the SSS booster. Seen, Sought, Sold was the name of it. How many people clicked over to Pitch TV to look at our software? 20. So not only did I get 2,000 views, I also got 20 clicks at $2 a piece. Again, we're gonna show you. We're not gonna just give you some theory. These are real numbers. Is this fair? Any questions about this, Kevin, so far? Did Kevin walk away after he asked this question?
No, I just, I'm still here.
All right,
just-
so let me see if I can bring this up, because I was on what's her name's podcast when this came up. See if I can find it, because I downloaded it so that I could. Bethany is her name. That was Bethany was the host. Let me see if I can find this thing from Bethany really quickly. Bethany Nonami is who it was. And let me see if I can scroll through here. Give me a second, guys, and I'll find this for you. I'll show you the actual. Have to be able to look through the photos of my conversation with Bethany, and I'll be able to show you the actual. I want to show you the actual responses from this. 1 second. You all can't see my Facebook, can you?
No, we
Okay.
just see Google ads.
Good, 'cause I don't want you looking through my message.
You made the point that I'm not ready.
No. I'm not saying that you're not ready. I'm teaching for people that are watching that are not named Kevin Hempstead also. So I have to talk so that everyone understands what we're talking about,
Gotcha.
because people are watching or in different positions in their speaking careers. Is that fair?
Very fair.
All right. So let me download this so I don't have to keep looking for this
I
every
have
time.
a question here.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
So I see the impressions, and then I see the views, and then I see the website visitors. So how many people were able to buy from you, from those 20?
Okay. So I don't know how many people bought, right? We didn't track that. But what I do know is that 2,000 people saw what I was talking about, because we're talking about just the views for the podcast. He wanted to drive more views. But I know 20 people went to our website. We didn't I didn't put like when I put the link in here, I should have used Google Tag Manager and been able to track how many people eventually bought from us, but I didn't. So that's a mistake on me. All I was trying to do was I didn't want to be the worst podcast on her channel, right? I wanted my views to be up at the top. So do you remember when I mentioned that, here, I'm going to bring this in because I have the stat here. Because it's on her channel, I had to ask her, hey, Bethany, can you give me a screenshot of my stats for my podcast on YouTube, right? So she took this off YouTube. This is just a YouTube screenshot. For 19 days, the first 19 days that this was up, how many views did we have? 2.7. What does that number match? Matches the 2.7 views right here. So the views that you run from the ad shows up in the actual video that it's on. Do you see that?
Yes.
They match. Impressions and click-through rates. They said that 1.8% click-through on that. People that clicked through to see what was going on. That matches. But what was the average view duration?
20.
20 minutes and 35 seconds. For 1 penny, imagine how many people you get. I got a lot of pennies. Look, I got a lot of pennies, guys. We could buy some views. We could get people. Now, I chose these people. These weren't just random people in India or someplace that didn't know who I was. I picked the people who saw it. People that were of any gender between 15 to 54. I didn't care about their parental status, but I did care about whether they were involved in business or not. So, because I wanted people getting on more podcasts that were service providers. Do you see that? So they're not showing us to random people that wouldn't be interested. I personally clicked on all of these folks. Makes sense? So these are well-targeted views. Sometimes you will go on a podcast and the audience for that podcast isn't your target audience, but your message still needs to get out. So you show it to the people you want to show it to. Is this fair? Right? So let's look at another one. Here's another one. Life Abroad with Ron Story. This is a video of channel I went on with, I was being interviewed about living in Medellin. And the guy does like Spanish classes, was tested out doing Spanish classes and things of that sort. So I went on that podcast. This time I advertised specifically to people who would be interested in that. This is me and Nikki
Roach, Nikki Roach.
Right? So there's the thing there. And I was like, yo, who wants to get paid to speak? So I ran some ads to Nikki's interview with me. 500 views. This cost me about 4 cents per view. Do you see that? 4 cents. I got a lot of nickels too, guys. Everybody got some nickels. Throw some nickels at your stuff. If you ain't, it ain't whether this is worth it, it's whether you're worth it. If you don't think you're worth running $20 to promote yourself, you're gonna lose anyway. If you don't think it's worth $20 for 500 more people or 1,000 more people to hear what you're talking about, you're already gonna lose. Just go and wave your flag because it's over for you. Because somebody else, your competition, is willing to do this. Make sense? Any thoughts or questions about this? Because this isn't the topic we're going to go over today, but I thought it was really important because we all have great messages. McDonald's is McDonald's because they run, I'm loving it, they run ads. Starbucks is Starbucks because they run ads. Netflix is Netflix because they run ads. Pepsi is Pepsi because they run ads.
Ron, Michelle asked a question in the chat. She said, what do we need to know or do before we go on a podcast to help us prepare for the podcast? Is there a checklist?
Yep.
So it's kind of in line with what you're already talking about.
Watch this. Let me give you, here it is. Here it is. A groove slightly transformed. Just a bit of a break from the norm. Y'all know nothing about summertime.
Just don't slap nobody, Ron.
There it is. I ain't slapping nobody. If y'all don't see them pictures, though, I may have to think about it. I'm going to warm up my hands, Mr. Miyagi style. No, I'm just playing. Right? So let's say, Michelle, I'm going to go on EO Fire podcast, right? So I'm going to come in and I'll say, I was invited to go on Entrepreneur, spell that wrong, on Fire podcast with John Lee Dumas. What are some topics that would be perfect for his audience based on what I do? Now, I put that in because ChatGPT already knows what I do, right? And my frameworks. So since it already knows what I do, it's going to just give you what his audience could benefit from, right? Search online to learn more about this podcast if you don't know it, right? So I'm going to hit search. So what is chat? What are they doing? They searching online. Hey, scaling and business value, innovative leadership topics, overcoming entrepreneurial challenges, financial, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Now, they didn't really bring in anything pertaining to the speaker flywheel, right?
So do you think this method is better, or do you think you should just watch a bunch of the podcasts maybe?
I mean, how much time you got? If you ain't got nothing else to do, go ahead. But his podcasts are a half hour each. You're gonna spend a bunch of time. But this topic is great because it gave us what the podcast is about, right? Right. So I can ask a follow-up question. So you see, I didn't get what I wanted there, right? I thought that it would go into my background, but it didn't. So I had to introduce it to my background. Introducing the SpeakerHUB without sounding salesy requires framing it as a solution that provides value rather than a product you're promoting. Here's what you can do. Focus on the problem I solve. So here's some of the talking points, right? Talk about the results, not the features. Share personal stories. Highlight the value without direct selling. Invite them to explore for free. You see how I gave you my call to action, my stories that I should tell, gave you my hook story offer, basically, right? So you can do this for any podcast so that you know what works for their audience, right? So now that, okay, going this, give me a topic that I can suggest to John for our interview. Now, this took 3 minutes, guys. So this isn't like we're investing hours doing a bunch of research. He's just gonna, ChatGPT is giving me some frameworks to run with. How entrepreneurs can use speaking to build authority and drive business growth. Perfect. Do you see that? And then now it gives me how I can talk about it. So you can give him this outline so that he knows. It helps him to prepare for what you're going to talk about, especially if what you are going to be teaching isn't already online and it's not already associated with you. So, Michelle, when someone looks up "and," are they going to find MCO, or are they going to find "and" the author of 4 books? Are they going to find "and" the speaker? Are they going to find "and" the board of directors member at NSA? What are they going to find? And if you don't know what they're going to find, that's why this helps, because you give them the work ahead of time. Here are my talking points. Here's what I'm going to try to cover while we're on that call in some way. This has made their life so much easier. Is this helpful, Michelle?
Yes, this is very helpful. But the other part of the question too, this has been great. But say for the back end of the house, what are some items that we need to be looking out for in order to prepare for the podcast? Like, is there a checklist of some type or that we can use?
Watch this.
ChatGPT again.
Yeah, I mean, it's smarter than me.
Yeah, I did that this morning.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
There it is. Right. So here's part of it. And this is something that I think is really important, right? So as much as many podcasts that I've done and as many podcasts as Ed just booked people on, because we're doing it, a lot of times we're not documenting it, right? So I talk about this all the time with like great athletes. Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan was a horrible coach in a lot of ways because his expectations were here and he didn't understand why other people didn't play like him or didn't see what he saw, right? And sometimes when we're doing it, we may not be we may not have all the answers to teach it for people that don't know how to do it our way. So I'm only going to be able to give you my perspective. But that doesn't mean you can't take my perspective, put it in the chat GPT and add other people's stuff to it or add other perspectives to it. Does that make sense? So
Yes,
one of the cool things about someone like Michael Jordan is that his competitive nature was for him to win, right? And that's why I'm very clear that I'm not a speaker, because I don't ever want you to feel that I'm competing with you, right? The Michael Jordan, the basketball player, wouldn't teach his competition how to beat him. So he wasn't a good coach. I'm not a speaker, so I can teach you everything. I can give you all of my stuff because I ain't competing with you for the same stages. And I don't need you to say, oh, I taught him and he, I don't care about that. I got to get you on more stages. So we're going to give you the best that we have, but feel free to go add to it. My ego ain't attached to it. My job is to get you on more stages and to share what I know, but I'm willing to admit I don't know everything, but I know enough. That's all, sometimes enough is better than everything else, right? But so feel free, guys, to take what we're learning here and use it as the foundation that you build upon with your other things. Again, a great example, Jadika. Jadika was a great example on Monday of how we have built a foundation of how to do things. And then she took it and then she built her own frameworks on top of that, of her systems, how to get people booked. And then I heard that and I said, I want to take some of that and add it to mine, right? Bart, 2 months ago, I started showing Bart in some of the meetings how we sent simple pitches. Bart didn't say nothing. He just started sending simple pitches. So now he understands, oh, I don't need to say all this other stuff. I like Ron's dating analogy of just introduce yourself and ask him if they're single. I'm going to use that for my own thing. Well, a month later, Bart has 3 speaking gigs booked using the same framework, but he added his own little thing to it. You remember he said, I say this, but then I add this part and I end with my quote. So we're just giving you the foundation, guys. Does that make sense? So remember that these are foundational things to get the rocket off the ground. You can add whatever you want to it. Let's see. I don't know. I can't read the chat. So, but okay. So I'll let Ann chat. So any questions before we go into how to build a framework?
Yeah. I have a question, and I think that what you are saying is very important to how to build the framework. Last time when you saw me here, I was in the middle of building a business. So after that one, I built this business where we help people restore their lives. So now I'm in a place where I need to know how to go in front of, to present that to the people. That's where I am right now. And I think this meeting is will answer that question for me. Yeah, so that's all. That's all I
Okay,
have to
cool.
say for now.
So let's talk about framework, because I think that this is really, 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 really important. 1 second, let me bring this up and let me go on my drive and let's see. Oh, that's from yesterday. 1 second. Where the heck is my frameworks thing? Recents. 1 second. And type is a dot. All right, I got it here. Right. So yesterday we talked about modalities and product mix, right? So we've been bringing up those modalities and product mix for a lot of times over the last 4 days. But today I want to talk about like frameworks and how do you build a framework, right? So the basics of what we're dealing with is you got to have a hook to get someone to pay attention to you so that they want to learn what you're talking about. A framework is just an organized way to present your knowledge, right? It's just an organized way, because we can talk about a lot of things. If I ask Claudine a bunch of questions, I could quiz her in all these different ways, but can she present it to me in a way that I can remember it, right? So the 7 habits of highly effective people instantly gives me something to go off of. Number one, it's 7. I know that there's a limited quantity of things I need to learn, right? And then, okay, these are habits. Okay, it's not 7 tricks, 7 habits, something I got to keep doing. I can't just do it once and it's solved. I got to keep doing it. So the framework is telling me what I should expect. And then it gives me the outcome. Do you want to be highly effective? Then you should follow these 7 habits, build these 7 habits. If you don't want to be highly effective, then don't build these 7 habits. Is that clear? So it gives us some knowledge before we even adopt it. So I want to use that as our basis. So what was the goal of the 7 habits framework?
To make you more effective in your life.
To make you more effective, right? So what did he have to do in order to be able to teach those frameworks? He had to know what the end is. The basic part of the second part of the thing is begin with the end in mind. And that's the key to building all frameworks. You got to know where you're taking people to. At SpeakerHUB, our goal, our overall goal, the destination we're trying to take people to is get them on more stages. Okay, we got to get them on more stages. Well, what type of stages are there that are available? There's podcasts, there's small group speaking gigs, there's large group speaking gigs, then there's writing opportunities or media, TV, books, all of those things. All of the things that are defined as my destination, I won't be able to get people to all of them. Does that make sense? So I got to know where I'm trying to take people to. So I got to start with the end in mind, right? And then I work backwards from that. So who wants to come up and work with us? I'm going to show you how to build this, how to build a framework. But I'll use 7 habits and the speaker flywheel and show you how we did it. But who wants to be our example today? Anybody?
Do you want to use someone that doesn't have a framework?
We got 60 frameworks. Right? So you can have more than one. You have one master one, but then you can have a bunch of other ones. I can show you, we got probably 60 of them, right? So in order for me to teach how speakers get paid, I teach the BDA framework before, during, and after, right? In order for people to get paid from people looking for them, I teach the inbound leads framework. And then I teach outbound, that part of the speaker flywheel. Right? So you'll have multiple frameworks, but I just want to show you, if you can't make one, you can't make 10. Is that fair, AJ?
Yes.
Okay. And question?
Yeah, I would like to volunteer.
Okay. No, I was asking, I was
Ann?
raising my hand, the example.
Oh, you want to be the example? Okay, we can do both of you.
No, I was raising my hand.
Okay, yeah, let's do both. Let's do Claudine first, and then we'll do Ann. I think that's good, right? So Claudine.
Yes.
Tell me what you do in one sentence.
So we help restore people, restoration. We restore people's life. We help restore people's life. That's what oh my goodness, I'm
okay. No. That is perfect. I did that on purpose. This is a trick question, right?
Yes.
We got to get what we do down to one statement.
Mm-hmm.
I help people to get booked on podcasts, paid speaking gigs, and press. And I'm actually changing that because I know more people want the paid speaking gigs. So we're going to move the second P for hours up to the front. I help people to get booked for paid speaking gigs, podcast, and press based on their desired need, right? So, but that's my statement. Let me show you. You can't build a framework if you can't describe where you're taking people.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let me bring up a framework for you.
Mhm.
A framework of how we write our opening statement. Here it is. Let me share my screen. Right? So this is my offer statement formula, which is a framework.
Mhm.
So when I first put this together, what was I trying to do? I was trying to get people to write a one sentence offer statement. That was my final thing. If I didn't know that that was the goal and the outcome I wanted, I couldn't come up with this. So my offer statement formula is basically this. I help my target audience to do a measurable and timely thing without the BS. And you know what BS stands for. Okay? Butterscotch, right? So I help speakers to get booked on podcasts, paid speaking gigs, and press without having to need an agent so that they could live the life of their dreams. They can reach their speaker goals. That's a basic example. You see how all I do is substitute. If I know my target audience, what I can help them to do and what they hate doing, I can write this statement. That's the first part of a framework. This is defining the destination. A more complicated version, right?
Mhm.
I help my target audience to get 30 speaking gigs in 90 days. You see how I can put a number in there to make it more definite because I need to, I got to have some accountability, right? So I know if what I'm teaching is working because I should be able to measure the outcome, right? Now, let's go back because I know what the next question is in most people's minds. Well, in the 7 habits, how do you make this accountable? Every one of these are binary. Let me give you a great example. Man, I'm struggling implementing the 7 habits. Okay, show me what you've done. Well, I haven't done anything yet. Okay, so you're not being proactive. Do you see how instantly I can determine if you're being proactive or not based on this framework, and I can hold the person accountable, but they can hold me accountable if it's working or not. Because if I'm not doing anything, I'm not being proactive. I can measure if I'm being proactive or not. Is that fair, Victor? Right. So I said, all right, so you got to get started. Where are you trying to take people to? What's the end goal? Well, I don't know. Well, don't move on until you find out where you're taking people. So if you can't define what you do in one sentence, don't build no frameworks yet. Because you don't even know you're taking people. That's why a lot of our frameworks sound airy-fairy that we hear people say. Right? I help people become happier. How the hell are you gonna measure that? Show me your happiness test, and you'll get $100 billion because it's impossible to measure it. So most beginning coaches start with something that they can't be held accountable to. Why? Because when the people come and ask for a refund, when they're not happy after talking to them, they say, well, it's your fault. Asshole, I bought happiness training from you and you couldn't make me happy. So now I'm mad because I ordered pepperoni pizza, but I got French onion soup. I didn't get what I paid for. Do you see how that happens? How many of y'all ever bought something you didn't get what you paid for? You like, and when I call them on it, they say, oh man, it's your fault. How's it my fault? I bought your thing that said it was going to give me, I don't mind paying for nasty pepperoni pizza, but I do have a problem with paying for pepperoni pizza and you bring me a bowl of soup. Because that's not what I ordered. I don't mind not liking what I got, but you better give me something that resembles what I got. So we need a clear statement of what we offer people. Victor, you're a brand strategist. When I walk away, I should know. I should have a logo. I should have some brand colors. I should have UPS or USP or whatever they call it. I should have something that's measurable and tangible I'm walking away with to know that I'm better off than where I was before I paid you through Stripe. That's what begin with the end in mind means. You see how we can measure that? So that 7 habits framework, all of these things are binary, right? How can I measure the next one? I show you how it's binary too. Say, okay, tell me the framework. Cool. It's this. Okay, well, what do they do before that step? Well, they got to do this. Well, that ain't the beginning. You got to go back some. If I can keep asking you, what do they do before that? That means you got to expand out a bit more. With the speaker flywheel that we teach, you notice it doesn't cover having a good speech because we're very clear of where we enter the conversation. We do not teach speech writing. Get that somewhere else. We teach speaker booking. So we start at the beginning of the booking process, not the beginning of the speaking process. So you see how it's very important that I got to define where I'm taking my people and where I'm picking them up from? Because if I don't do that, I'm going to be held accountable to stuff that I don't know. And AJ and I call those covert contracts, right? Let me give you an example of what a covert contract is, because it happens all the time. Victor's going to move. He say, Bart, you and Ron want to come over and help me move? I'm like, no, I'm not into moving. Bart's like, all right, Victor, we live in the same city. I'll come and help you, right? I bailed on it because I didn't want to do it. So I'm going to be honest with myself first because I don't feel obligated out of our friendship. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go play golf. I don't want to move, right? But Bart's a good dude. Bart's like, I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to go help him move. He moves. They have a good time. He gets moved into his new house. 2 months from now, Bart's about to move. Bart calls Victor. Victor, yo, can you help me move? Victor like, no, I don't want to help you move. Right? How you think Bart feels, Kevin?
Slighted.
Anybody else feel that way? Slighted is one way. How else you think Bart feels?
Feels lied to.
What do you mean?
Like you promised something, you didn't deliver on what you said you was gonna do.
When did he promise that? When did you promise that you would help him move? He helped you move, but now it's your turn to return the favor, and you said you didn't want to do it.
Sorry, so more so of the expectation. There was a false expectation. That's what I. That's
covert contract, a contract that was signed that nobody ever read or agreed to. Nobody ever signed that paper saying, if I help you move, when I move in 3 months, you got to help me. The biggest form of frustration in life is not being clear on what you want and saying, hey, look, I'm gonna help you move. If you come over and help me move, when you move, I ain't helping you. You better tell them that up front so there's no misunderstanding. So covert contracts in business is the biggest issue because when we say what we do, in our business, people hear something else. They sign up with you, they heard something different, and now they 3 months into it, they're like, that ain't what I got. They're like, no, we made it very clear. And they're like, I ain't read that. And I'm like, no, it's very clear. They're like, that ain't how I heard it. That's a covert contract or a misunderstanding in some way, right? Does that make sense? So in a lot of our businesses, in the way that we describe what we do, we end up inadvertently creating these covert contracts with our customers. Great example is I used the guy with the music instrument, the drum set. And he was asking me, hey, I want to know that you can provide professional speaker income for me if I use your system. We don't say that anywhere on our website. We say we can help you to get booked more, but we don't make any income claims. We stayed away from that because that's a covert contract. We're very clear. Our job is to get you booked, not to pay your rent. You got to do that part. That's your negotiation skills, your ability to sell your product, so forth and so on. Our job is to help you to get on more podcasts, paid speaking gigs, and press. You see how it's very clear? We define what you can expect from us. If you're saying, can you help us write a speech? Is that in the 3 things that we do? Not on those things. Is that fair? Right? Now, I bring this up because you can't develop a framework if there are loopholes in it, or someone can make an assumption and get the wrong thing, because they're not going to get to where you're trying to get them to. Is this fair? Let me show you. If Bart has a shitty framework, people lose their lives. Am I wrong, Bart? If he is, with what he does, it is that serious that his frameworks on how to get people out of dangerous situations, it has to work, because it will cost someone their lives. Janika does healing through touch. There's been a lot of people that have gone to different places and got a pinched nerve because somebody didn't know what they were doing. Jadika's stuff has to work in the context of what she's teaching. Jasmine, how many people have been bench pressing? That one kid at USC, bench pressing reverse this way, drops the bar on his neck, crushes his neck, destroys his NFL career because an idiot personal trainer had a faulty framework on how bench presses should be done. You bench press this way, not this. This reverse grip crap was a stupid thing. It's an ego lift, as they call it at the gym. Is this fair, guys? Why I'm talking? This is really important, because if you don't get this part of your framework right, meaning I know where I'm taking people. Someone asked me in the elevator, Jasmine, what do you do? If you can't say it in one sentence, it's a bad deal, because you don't know what you do. And my confidence in what you're about to say is kind of like, yep, you just lost me, right? I know what AJ does. AJ helps people to put on small events, to make profitable events with small audiences. Very simple, very clear. Why? Because we talk about this all the time, right? How long? 3 years, AJ? 4 years, we've been talking about the same thing, getting it better and better on how we can present it. So now we're calling them Airbnb conferences, because people know what that is. We got these little things that we work on to try to get the frameworks right. All right, so I don't want to beat that because we're running out of time, but I want you to understand we got to define this thing. Go back to it. So write that down, your offer statement. Who's my target audience? I help my target audience to do this measurable and timely outcome, to get this measurable and timely outcome without the BS, without the pain. Cool? Now, you can have a secondary offer. So after you say that, so let me use an example. I help coaches to get 30 sales appointments in 30 days without building complicated funnels so that they can grow their business. I actually changed that to I help coaches to get 30 sales appointments in 30 days without having to dance on TikTok, because I knew TikTok was the big thing, and I knew people who were coaches didn't want to be doing all this stuff, right? Then here's the second follow-up. By working with me, you will get this. I help speakers to get, you watch me do it every time I talk about the Flywheel. We help speakers to get booked for podcasts, paid speaking gigs, and press. I got to practice it the other way. I help speakers to get booked on paid speaking gigs, podcasts, and press, right? By working with us, we use something called the Speaker Flywheel. You see how I talked about the outcome and then introduced the framework? Why do we introduce the framework second versus first?
People want to know you can help them win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right up front.
Yeah,
Right
the
away.
offer talks about the destination. The framework is the vehicle. I want to go to heaven. We're a Muslim synagogue or mosque. Cool. That's the vehicle. If you want to go there, you go there. If you want to be Jewish, you go to the synagogue. If you want to be Christian, you go to the church. But the destination is heaven. Do you see it? And then you pick which vehicle you want to ride to heaven in.
Great framework.
Right? So let's talk about how we do it. So we need the outcome. We got to get that. And then we got to walk back. You should make a list of everything that your client needs to do in order to get to that destination. What you'll find is that you can group those things into different sections, right? So there's a framework that we use all the time that we don't show publicly. I'll share it with you, but everything that we're doing in SpeakerHUB is based on this framework here, right? If I can't help you all to clarify you all's ideas about what you're working on as a speaker, and then identify the audience for that, and then help you to create the assets, the courses, the books, the podcast collateral, the content, and then build out the systems, and then teach you how to sell. Imagine if I just skipped all the way over, y'all should be running paid ads. That's why I was very generic with the Google stuff. I'm not talking about how to run paid ads. No. I'll help you to get more audience, but you don't even know who the audience is. Let's get the framework right. So when you get on these podcasts with 50 people, you know that your frameworks work. Is this fair? So this is something Ange and I work on all the time. This is our idea about how we help thought leaders. So we go back to this and we say, okay, we got to talk about this part. They ain't ready for that yet. Some people over here, tell them to meet with us privately and we'll walk them through that part because I know they got the first 6. But in generic, we're going to talk about this part because most people haven't figured out this part, right? So this is how you learn to build different things. You notice when we said, well, what are the person going to need all the way at the end? Well, once they got all the stuff, they need to be running more ads. But that's 16 months into it. And we understood that that was a maintenance part because they had already built the momentum. They'd already learned to make money. They had already mastered things. I'm going to show you something of how we all will get better together. I made a mistake with this. Go back and watch all of our previous videos prior to January 2nd. The messaging changed January 2nd when I realized, wait a minute, I thought everybody was over here, but they really back here. And that's not a negative thing, but I just made an assumption. I'm like, oh yeah, these folks, these are the creme de la creme. They present themselves well, they know their stuff. But as we talk more, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I gotta go back. So let me go back a little bit. And then I went back further, and then I went back further. And then I realized, wait a minute, they may not even have the framework. Let me start back here, which is our conversation today. Does that make sense? Now, why is this important? Because there's a reason why we did that too. I watched a guy named Alex Hormozy. And this was incredible. We're going to go into overtime. We're going to finish the frameworks. But I watched a guy named Alex Hormozy. And he had a company that he sold for $64 million 2 years ago that helped people in the gym space. And it's basically a Facebook ads course. It ain't nothing else. I've seen it. He sold it for $46,000 per person. And it just teaches people how to run Facebook ads, right? But let me tell you what he figured out. He said, hey, if you've ever bought a course on products, see you later, Janika. If you ever bought a course on products, usually they teach you how to write your speech, how to do this stuff, how to do that. And then the last part is how to get customers. You ever bought a course in the last section is how to run Facebook ads and how to close deals? They don't teach you none of that up front because they don't want you to get, they don't think you're going to get to that anyway. Right? But you want to teach people how to do the other stuff, get them customers first. I get y'all on podcasts, I get you booked and start getting appearances. You got to figure out your frameworks. Now the framework's more important because you're like, shit, I got this podcast next week. Jasmine said that earlier, 2 days ago. She was like, I got a podcast next week. What do I do? But if I would have just been teaching, here's how you be great on a podcast, and she never got that booking, that urgency doesn't show up. Does that make sense? So you got to know where your audience is.
I'm recording this tomorrow, so I'm listening up everything today.
Exactly, right? So, but that knowing where they are and that urgency, because the thing is there. I got you a result. Now you trust everything else I say. Because everybody else that's been telling you, they ain't giving you nothing to hold them accountable to. I haven't found a speech that automatically books gigs. Well, when you write it, people just say, man, I saw what you wrote. Come and speak. That speech don't exist. Right? That speech don't exist. So let's go back to our frameworks thing, because I want to finish this. Right? So the first thing we need to know where our people are. Where are we trying to get them? With SpeakerHUB, we knew we were trying to get you to get you booked on more stages, right? So since I'm trying to get you booked on more stages, where's my speaker flywheel, right? Well, what are the ways that you can get a person booked on stages? Inbound and outbound. That's what I learned by working backwards. Some people get referrals. Remember we showed that yesterday in the report? Some people get referrals. Some people are doing outbound. Some people are going back to the same place. So I knew there were inbound and outbound opportunities. But what are the different types of stages? So then I had to define those. And if they're going to be getting on inbound leads, how do they do that? Make sense? So Claudine, let's bring you back up so we can walk you backwards. So let's do this statement. This part.
Okay, while we were talking, I kind of perfect my work, my statement. What I had in mind is to help people recover from their past so they can have their joy. But right now that we were talking, I said we help you discover your joy, passion, and hope for a brighter, more successful future by using grief recovery and strength finder courses.
Perfect. Good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way to go.
Okay.
Now, so now that you have that, you know that that's your outcome, your statement, right?
Yes.
Do you have a way that you can teach something that someone can walk away with?
Yes, I have this right here. Yes. Okay,
let's walk us through it because we can't see it.
Oh, yes. So this is what I have put together. So when the people come to me, then the first step is for them is to take loss and recovery course. And this course helps them to leave the past pain and develop a sense of looking forward to see the future, good things in the future. So from there, we help them discover their God-given talents, then what they are naturally good at. So from there, we take them to take basic courses like computer courses and any other courses, basic courses. So from there, we take them to take more advanced courses that can get them certification. So from there, we have a way to assist them in writing their resume and so they can find a job. So this is for those who are looking for a job, or those who are looking for a job. But what if somebody has a job already? For that person, the person still needs to go take the grief recovery and then a strength finding course. And also, if that person wants to enhance his skills, he can still do. So the reason we do that is because the reason we all started life expecting to reach our goals and destinies, but something happens to us. And then when that thing happens to us, we lose control of our lives. We feel discouraged. We feel depressed. So sometimes it takes us so long to even recover from that. So,
Okay.
so after that, we don't have much time to go back to school for 10 years. So that's why we have this program to help the people recover so quickly.
Yep. So I think that that's great. Now I'm going to show you something that's really cool, right? Your destination where you get people, which is where you're taking them. You got to get it down to 3 words.
Okay.
Right? 7 habits, speaker flywheel, CrossFit, ketogenic diet, Atkins diet. You see how I got to be able to describe it in a quick thing, because I don't have 18 points and I don't have the person's attention that long.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you got to take what you have there, put it in the chat GPT, because you have the process.
Yes.
That's the process, but that's not the framework. That's the steps that they follow. But the framework is, what do I need to believe to even follow this process? Does that make sense? Let's go back to religion. I want to go to heaven. If I'm going to be a Christian, what do I have to believe? I have to believe that Jesus died for my sins.
Yes, exactly.
I don't need to believe that to be a Jew. I don't need to believe that to be a Muslim. But I got to believe to be a Christian. Do you see that? Very simple. John 3:16, right? They just go right straight to it. What do I have to believe to be a Muslim? I got to believe that Muhammad was a prophet along with Jesus. And he wrote this book, which is just as valuable as the Jewish and the Christian books. If I don't believe that, I can't ride that vehicle, because I ain't going to follow what he says. If I'm going to be Jewish, what I got to believe? That only first 5 books of the Bible matter that Moses wrote. The rest of it is cool story, bro. But these are the 5 that matter to us. If I don't believe that Moses is the person, then I ain't gonna make it that long when I go to this Jewish synagogue and I start talking about this dude that died for my sins. And they like, he ain't came back yet. We still waiting on the Messiah. What are you talking about? And then I'm like, but no, I heard that his cousin came and he was Muhammad. And he's like, no, we don't believe that either. I'm in the wrong place. So your framework should let those who want to ride with you. But it has to be easy for them to understand. You don't have a long time to explain that to them. And they need to be able to fold it up, put it in their pocket, and come back to it in their times of need. So when someone's not getting booked, you know what I want people to always believe that use SpeakerHUB? Man, am I really using this framework thing right? That should be the first thought. The same way that when we get into trouble in our lives, we go to religion. Man, Jesus, you got to help me out. God, I'll never drink this much again. If you just make this headache go away.
Yeah.
Right? Kevin and Bart, we done said that prayer a few times. They laughing. If they ain't said it, they know somebody that said it, right? Like, you just get me through this one hangover, God. But you go, oh, I'll never drink this Four Loko ever again, right? So, but you want them to be able to fold the framework up and put it in their pocket so they can bring it out when they're working on it. Is this fair? So you have a process. Now take that process, put it in the chat GPT, in order to come up with something that your users can walk away with, right? So Kevin has the MAP framework. You know, that's easy to remember. Kevin, what's the MAP again?
Memories of your past, actions of your present, plans of your future.
Right?
Wow.
So what's the structure of his thing? We got MAP, and then we got past, present, future, which makes it easier for us to remember.
Mm.
Right? So I got memories, actions, and what's the other one?
Plans.
Plans, memories, actions, and plans. So I'm in past, present, and future in what I'm doing with him. See how easy that is to remember. He ain't got to tell me nothing else, and I can probably get some of that in place.
And it's all through the practice of journaling.
Right? So I write down what I did, man. Ron, you did this in the past. That builds my confidence. I write down where I'm at right now. I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing now. I did this year. This is what I'm working on. Yep, it's getting me closer towards my goal. Oh, dude, I need to make a plan because you see, I can write through all of that. Now, he ain't got to teach it to me. I already know it. Now, I don't know it all the way, but I can keep listening and I can decide if that's something I think I can follow. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
When AJ talks about doing small group events, the person has to sit back and before they decide to work with AJ, they got to believe that that method is a way to build a coaching business. If they don't believe that, if they believe they got to get 5,000 people in the room, they talking to the wrong person. Is this making sense, guys? So your framework needs to clearly define a destination. Once it's clearly defined a destination, it needs to take into account all of the steps you're willing to be held accountable to.
So I just came up with something quickly.
Yeah.
Restoration to your original plan.
Okay, well, let me say this. You don't have to have it here.
Yeah.
We just want to generate the thought. So don't put yourself on the clock and try to rush through it. Nobody thinks any less of you.
Okay.
This is here for demonstration purposes. I'm willing to meet with you afterwards to walk you through it. This ain't the shame game. You ain't on the hot seat. We not pooping on nobody. We don't play that. Right? But we're glad that you're here because there are a lot of people who are silent on this call and is going to watch this that feel just like you. They just didn't have the courage to put their hand up. And that is okay because this is where we all started.
Yeah.
So don't be putting y'all don't be putting yourself on the clock because we up here talking. Ain't no clock. Don't worry about it. We gonna get better.
Yeah.
Right? So I would challenge you, work on it. And today, Thursday, give yourself the weekend. Come back Monday and share with us what you came up with.
Okay.
Give yourself 4 or 5 days. Type it in the chat GPT, your entire process. Put that in the chat GPT and say, give me something. Give me a framework, 5 words, 5 letters. Give me the Claudine framework. Give me the MACD framework, the CMACD framework. Whereas CMCD, that's your, you can come up with whatever you want, but play around with it. It is okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't have this, guys, it's hard to go on a podcast and be consistent with what you talk about.
That's true.
Right? It's hard for you to have confidence. Right? Most speakers, unfortunately, are parrots. What do I mean by parrots? They're very good at quoting other people. They haven't synthesized the quotes and the books that they've read and developed their own frameworks from them. Nobody wants to pay you to read John Maxwell quotes all day when they can afford to pay John Maxwell. But I don't have a problem with paying you. Give me your perspective of what you learned by being a Maxwell consultant. Does that make sense? And I'm saying that with Angela on the call, who's a Maxwell consultant. So she understands how I feel about that. You got to build your own IP. Makes sense? So is this fair? Go back through it.
Yeah.
Got to know where you're taking people. You got to know all the steps that they have to go through in order to get there. You decide which part of those steps you want to be accountable for. We don't negotiate the salaries. We don't negotiate the pay. We even stopped at the point of saying we're not even going to provide sample contracts. So we get asked every week, can you give us a sample speaker contract? No, we're not lawyers. We ain't taking accountability for that part of the process. We stop at getting you the meeting. We know all the steps in between there up until I don't have any meetings. I got a speech, but I don't have any meetings. Cool. Go talk to somebody else about the speech. We're going to cover this part. Do you see that? That accountability is what separates you from everyone else. Because how many people took a course that was on speaking writing that never got them gigs, but the promise of the course was to get them gigs? Course got 10 modules, 9 of them on how to write a speech. What? But the promise is we will turn you into a 6-figure speaker in 3 weeks. Just by teaching you how to write a speech, get out of here. I paid 40 grand for this. Get out of here. You can't even help me make any money. You just told me how to write a speech that nobody's ever going to hear because you can't get me on stage. Covert contract. That's what it's called. Okay, guys? So that's, yo, you helped me move, and now I'm asking you to help me to move. Helped you to pay your rent, and now I'm trying to use the course to pay my rent, and it ain't working. Claudine laughing because Claudine know what I'm talking about. We done help these coaches pay their rent with our money, but when we take their stuff, it can't help us pay our rent with their knowledge. It's a bad deal. Here's the one thing I know, guys.
I'm sorry.
I believe that everyone on here is probably the best at what they do for the right audience. That audience just doesn't know who you are yet. Once you realize who that audience is, speak to them with authority and confidence and lead them to where they should go. Why? Because your competition won't. When they say, wait, he showed y'all that? Man, I ain't. So, yo, Ron showed his campaigns where he booked all of these different things. Can you show me yours? Ask him. Yo, AJ, you said you could put on these small group things. When was the last time you did one? AJ should be able to bring up his photo in November. I got another one working with this group. I got this right here. Here are 15 of them I did before the pandemic. Victor, you do branding. I want to see. Can you show me? Boom. I should be able to see it. Show you God daggone work. Really important because that's AI is going to take away all the other folks. AI going to get rid of them people. They're going to be selling $6 courses. They all struggling.
I would say don't invite people to eat at your restaurant if you don't have a menu.
Man, what type of restaurant you got? Oh, we make sure people walk out full. Yeah, but is it Italian? Is it Ethiopian food? Is it Ghanaian food? Is it Mexican? What do you sell? Man, we sell a little bit of everything. Yep. Going over here to Popeyes. Because the minute that Popeyes starts selling hamburgers, I'm gonna have a problem with Popeyes. But as long as they keep selling that chicken, we gonna be friends.
I think they can work burgers and love those burgers from Popeyes.
That ain't gonna be good. They better off selling spinach before burgers. At least that's on brand. At least spinach is on brand, right? So, but you get what I'm saying. This is the opportunity, guys. It starts small, but it grows. Because you're very clear on who you talk to. Make sense? Claudine? Any other questions while we're here? Say, Ron, is this helpful to you? I know we talked about some of these things before, but being able to come up with a framework for what you teach
Okay.
is really, 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 really important. You know, Jasmine, any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, that's great. You know, they say Providence move when you need things, right? And a couple of for me preparing for my recording for that podcast tomorrow, this whole week, you know, took me different steps. You know, I might be, you know, experiencing what I do in the past, but I'm a baby when it comes to this part. So I'm just gobbling up everything. And, you know, when I'm off, I put it together, I reframe, you know, how I introduce myself just this past 15 minutes. I've reframed that, you know, so thanks.
Yeah, this is really,
I love
really, really
learning.
important.
You can't outlearn me. You can't get me bored by when I'm learning.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense, right? Any other feedback? Any other questions? So I want to walk through the steps again. You got to know where you're taking people, right? You got to know all of the steps that they need to go through in order to get there. Decide which of those steps you want to be held accountable for. Does that make sense? Then take those steps, put them in the chat GPT or section them out however you want. You don't have to use chat GPT in order to develop your framework for that, right? So let me show you one that you all see and you probably didn't even notice. What's a framework? Exploring, emerging, experienced. We have another one in the middle, elite, that we don't show. Enterprise and entry. That's our free plan, right? That's our pricing framework. Entry is people who are curious about SpeakerHUB as a speaker or organizer. Just come over here and play for free. You see how they all start with ease. That wasn't done by mistake, right? This is good for people that are thinking about speaking, but they don't really know if they want to do it. Still one of the most feared things to do by humans. So they just exploring. The emerging speaker has decided this is what they're going to do, and they're already moving up. The experienced speaker is like, I'm already past that. I need to get more income out of it. I got to be able to get on more stages and sell more stuff. The enterprise person is saying, hey, I do this for my other clients that are in these categories. How do we use your software to do this? Is this fair? Then there's one in the middle called elite, but we're not putting that on the pricing because we'll end up with too many things. You see how the frameworks, well, now that I've mentioned it, you're like, holy crap, these things are everywhere, right? What's our product framework? Bam. It ain't by mistake that it says speaker in the front. Speaker profile, speaker data, speaker CRM, speaker GPT, speaker VA. Today we just bought the domain for speaker co-working. So now anybody who wants to come to our daily co-working, if they're a speaker, they can go to speakercoworking.com and it brings them right into the Zoom. Because I didn't want them having to remember usa.zoom blah. Just go to speakercoworking.com. You see how we try to make it easy for everyone. That's the purpose of the frameworks. All of this together, all of these are sub-frameworks of SpeakerHUB. That's the master product that has these subcategories underneath. The speaker flywheel, we explain each piece just right there, but the speaker flywheel, if we go back up, is the master framework that has inbound, outbound, so forth and so on in the middle. 6 sub-frameworks under the main one that's easy to remember. Any questions so far? I want to show you this is what we're living. All the way down to what's the name of the pricing? That's a framework. So here's the framework for teaching frameworks. Really simple. You have to have an audience that's going somewhere, but they can only get there if they believe what you believe. You have to have an audience that's going somewhere. What do they need to believe in order for them to follow you to that destination? There's a great book called the Story Brand by a guy named Donald Miller. Check it out. It's really good. I've done all of his trainings. Incredible stuff. I'll tell you why this is super duper duper important. How did Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton?
The audacity
He
of
had no
hope.
experience. No experience.
Talked about hope.
Who's
Gave
hope about?
people
He told
change.
America,
He gave-
yes, we can, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
people,
yes, we can. Who's that about?
That's about the people.
Right.
And I will say this, Ron, the presidents who make it about the people are the ones who win. The ones who always lose, they're always reiterating what they've done, their achievements. It's been throughout history, American history.
Do you know why that is?
Because people don't come to you for you, they come to you for them.
What's in it for me?
Yep. But let me take it a step further. If I'm the star of the movie, I can't be flawed. It's about me. I'm the master, blah, blah, blah. I can't be flawed at that point. So when Hillary had the issue with her emails, I don't know if y'all remember that. She had this thing where some emails got leaked. And basically what they said was, well, you can't even protect the emails. But because she made it about her, if she said, well, no, such and such is fixing that. You know what Donald or whoever would have said? Well, why don't we vote for them instead of you? Right? But the guide, the person that's taking you up the mountain, can be flawed. Obi-Wan Kenobi was super duper flawed, but he was able to lead Luke Skywalker, right? So our job is to be the guide, not the superstar. Our clients are the superstar that we're guiding along the way. Does that make sense? So when, the current president-elect they was like, oh, he's like this and he's like that. He's like, yeah, but that don't mean I can't make America great though. Right? That was always his deflection. He did this to women. Yeah, that don't mean I can't make America great again though. Because I ain't trying to make me great. I know I'm messed up. I got a lot of problems. But I'm trying to make America great. And they like, yeah, I guess he got a point. No matter what you say, he's like, yeah, but I know. Yeah, I did that. But America's great. I'm going to make America great again. Yes, I am an idiot, but America's going to be amazing. That's
Growth
what he
of
does.
America.
Right? So he's done that in such a great way. Barack Obama, when he got elected, wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to be the first black president. He was like, no. Yes, we can. We can do this together. We can do this. We're going to fight the system. It was about the people. It wasn't about the inexperienced guy who ain't never run nothing in his life. Besides the Harvard Review newspaper, whatever he ran. Other than that, he hadn't done anything. He was an Illinois senator for maybe 2 years at the most, but he was able to give it to the people. So to be the guide for your clients in your framework can't be about Victor.
Mhm.
Right? And when we were working on the frameworks part of SpeakerHUB, we had made it where it would be about your name first. And then I met with Maria and I was like, I don't like this name thing
But they're
because
right.
now it's about
Yeah.
them,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
The framework is now about AJ, if we call it the AJ framework. Yeah, it sounds good. I know if Victor stole AJ stuff because it's called the AJ framework, but in reality, we don't want it to be about AJ. We want it to be about AJ's customers. So we got rid of, and when you see the frameworks feature inside of SpeakerHUB, is not about you at all. It is 100% about your customer. Right? I mean, it's incredible. The design of it is amazing. I can't wait till you all get to use it. But that's what we want to make sure you have. So you can go on every podcast and it'll be able to show you the framework you should use for that podcast once it's booked. Or when you got a speaking gig, we'll say, hey, you should teach this. Just the same stuff that Michelle was asking. That's why I was able to go through that, because we've already written those prompts to make it work inside of the software. Is this good or no? right? So your frameworks can't be about you. They have to be about your audience and who you're helping. But they need to be accountable. After that, you're good. You are golden after that. But what's the other part? Claudine, remember, they got to be able to fold it up and put it in their pocket. They ain't got time to be explaining all that stuff. You can't be explaining all that. But Monday, you're gonna come back with a shorter version of the process. I believe in you because when you were here the last time, way better than what you were the first time, right? So you're on the right path. This is what we do. We're gonna help you to grow. But we want to get those small frameworks like MAP, Speaker Flywheel. Victor, you got a framework that you use, or are you still working on them?
I do have a framework.
Let's talk about
it. Yeah, sure. It's the 3 stories you need to tell in your marketing. Number 1 is the story of your product or service. Number 2, the story of your customer. And number 3, your story.
There it is. There it is. Who are the 3 people involved in the transaction? You, your customer, and the product. Cool. People can remember that. Right? If I were to think about what he's talking about, I tell my stories all the time. Hey, I remember I was talking to somebody and they did this. Here's how I discovered this thing, right? I tell the product story. Here's how we bought this company January 7th, 2018, and we turned it into what it is today. Here's how we've gone through that process. But more importantly than any of that, I need to be able to empathize with my customer. I got to be willing to get on these calls to understand where y'all are. Does this make sense? So we can live each other's frameworks and we can apply them. I wanted to use that as an example to show you I can apply what he had just talked about. And then earlier when we had the MAP framework, you know how I take it, I want to show it to you because I want you to be able to imagine to do the same thing. How can I learn from Kevin? There's something in that I probably can apply. There's something in what Claudine is talking about that I can apply. But Claudine, or say Ron, or Karen, or Angela, we got to simplify it so that that person can say, oh, I see myself in that. You ever see, it's like clothes. Frameworks is like clothes. You know, women go to the mall, and someone that lives with me, I ain't gonna say her name, but somebody that lives in my house is very good at going to the mall and imagining herself in clothes and imagining the kids in clothes. Ironically, she can never imagine me in clothes because I don't ever get nothing. But she comes back with all these bags for the kids and all this stuff. That's like a framework. If we can't see ourselves in it, we ain't going to use it. Look at Janissa laughing. Janissa, you be imagining stuff too and bringing home clothes for everything besides your husband or your boyfriend. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking, okay? But that's the gist, right? We got to be able to try. If the person can't try on your framework, they're not going to use it. Tell you why. Let me, real quick, and we'll get off. Kevin remembers PitchDB from years ago. Ron had a lot of great things, but my main framework was just pitch. That was the only thing I talked about. I didn't talk about nothing else, just pitch, because I hadn't figured out all of the stuff. Does that make sense? We introduced these frameworks, the Speaker Flywheel in July, and our usage of the software has gone up because people can imagine that using the flywheel. They don't have to think about it anymore. They can see it. But when we didn't have the flywheel, pitching was down because they didn't know, well, I need to be doing this. Or someone would come in and say, I don't even want conferences. I don't want to do podcasts. Our podcast pitching has gone through the roof because I've been able to show people the framework on how to get customers from podcasts. Is this cool? So anything else before we go? We're an hour and a half in. This has been good. I love talking about this stuff because it's the things that I've lived. And we got to get you all on more stages, man, more podcasts. We got to get Victor on more podcasts, right? Because if he's here and it's 12 of us, he's dropping gems. Imagine if he was on more podcasts, dropping the same gems to 1,000, 500, whatever, more people, because they need to hear them, right? Any other questions, guys? Claudine, first off, thank you for your courage and bravery for stepping up and allowing us to use you as our canvas to show how to build things. When I asked that original, yeah, high five to her. When I asked the original question, how do you describe what you do in one sentence? Nobody ever gets that right. So don't worry about it. But that was the setup question in order for me to teach the next thing. If I didn't do that, I couldn't get into my thing. Does that make sense? So I look forward to hearing what you come up with next week and how you refine things. And I look forward to helping other people with it. So any other questions before we go? Say, Ron, anything you want to, any questions, comments, concerns?
No, this was a great session, Ron, as usual. Thank you very much for all the work and input you and Angela's doing. We can't thank you enough. Thank you both. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we got to see you win. No, thanks, Saran. Bart, we're going to start calling Bart silent but deadly.
I'm going to give a shout out to something that's never gotten a shout out in the almost 2 months. I've been a month and a half, and I just want to give a shout out to Angela's note taker. Never misses a day.
Yeah, no, we're going to start
on behalf of
that.
my note taker, I'd like to say thank you.
Yeah,
we worked hard to make sure y'all have what y'all need.
We're going to turn on this camera one day and see who's really behind that thing over there.